A very good morning to you and welcome to Just Africa, the window into the continent's evolving economic story. In today's episode, we turn our spotlight on Africa's capital markets, exploring how stock exchanges across the continent are not just trading floors, but they are barometers for economic confidence and tools for wealth creation and engine of development. From Lagos to Johannesburg, Cairo to Nairobi, and Casablanca to Accra, Ghana, Africa's stock exchanges are increasingly attracting attention not just from local investors alone, but also from the global financial arena and the financial players looking for growth and yield. Yet, these markets remain largely misunderstood or overlooked at, often clouded by perceptions of instability and low liquidity and some regulatory opacity, I would call it, involved too. But the narrative is changing. In this episode titled Africa's Rising Markets, Demystifying the Stock Exchange on the Continent, we take a deep dive into the largest and most active exchanges in Africa, examining how they function, what drives them, who the players are, and what it means for everyday Africans, business, and international investors. Good morning to you once again, and welcome to Just Africa. Good morning, Olumide.
Good morning, Priya. How are you doing?
I'm okay. First of all, I am not surprised that South Africa is, at the top with $1.3 trillion market capitalization in the Johannesburg Exchange. Nigeria, we are not doing badly as well, but I have a problem with the number of companies that are quoted. 160 companies quoted in Nigeria, as big as the market is, 160 alone. In South Africa, we're looking at 300 companies quoted. And sometimes I just wonder, what is South Africa doing differently? And our talking points of, emulating this industry.
Let's try. I think the topic is demystifying the stock exchange. So when people hear stock exchange, especially in Nigeria, the layman, what comes to his mind? I remember growing up, when I hear stock exchange, I just think about Wall Street, rich people wearing suits, running around with papers, and But as I grew older, I began to understand what stock exchange is. So I think there's a bit of poor education as to what stock exchange is. Look at the recently CBEX scam and all that. It's because people are looking for quick money. But imagine if, though I heard that a lady, I think she invested about 50 million naira into the CBEX thing. Now imagine that 50 million naira going into the stock, buying stock or shares of a particular company. Do you understand? So there's this lack of education as to what the stock market is. So I think that's one of the reasons why we have low companies listed on the stock exchange, Nigerian Stock Exchange. So I think we really need to sensitize people, create this awareness, but then again, you also need to educate them. They need to be aware, and we have new trading platforms that can actually help. So it's not rocket science, but you just need to understand that stock exchange is like you buying. It's like, okay, for instance, you go to a marketplace, you want to buy fish, you want to buy that. Same as stock exchange. When a company wants to increase or expand their listing, they sell some of their stock, their shares, basically. So you buy into that shares, you become a part owner. So when they when they're about to declare profit and all that, you enjoy. And of course, when it goes south, you also. So I think Nigerians need to really be aware of what the stock exchange is in order so that we have more investors, because we have rich farmers that can actually go into stock.
Yes.
We have them.
Yes. Well, without much further ado, we have experts and stockbrokers waiting to have conversation with us and with you this morning. And first, let's welcome Charles Fakrogha. Is a stockbroker, and he will be discussing with us this morning concerning our topic, demystifying the stock market in the continent of Africa. Good morning to you once again, Mr. Charles. Welcome to Just Africa. Thank you so much for joining us. Could you please unmute yourself so we can hear you?
morning. Thank you for having me. Good morning. Good morning.
Morning to you. Welcome to Just Africa. And I'm glad you're a stockbroker. You are going to do justice to our conversation this morning, not only in Nigeria, but in some other big economies in Africa. Concerning the stock market, Tunisia, Morocco, Egypt, and South Africa. So first of all, let me take a cue from what my colleague said. Olumide, he talked about the lack of awareness and what comes to the mind of the common man on the street when we talk about stockbroking and stockbroker and capital market. And they felt like, okay, probably this is meant for, it's an esoteric jurisdiction and it's meant for just certain level of people. So if you were to briefly, enlighten the man there on the street what stockbroking or what the capital market is and how he can throw in his 1 or 2 naira to earn a living, please kindly do that before we jump into the meat of our conversation this morning.
Yes, thank you very much. And when you talk about the capital market, talk about stockbroking, like your guest is today, it is not rocket. It is as simple as it. Now, you are talking of stockbrokers. These are the professionals that facilitate trade on an exchange, and they operate in the capital market. Before they operate in that market, they have been licensed by a regulator, also now registered by the platform, and they have passed some various exams, and they are now certified stock brokers. Their main function, their main function is basically to buy and sell for their clients. At the same time, to encourage companies to come and get money, raise money from the market, so that the days of one man entrepreneur, your own capital is over. So if you have a company, your company has been operating maybe 3, 4, 5 years, and you want to expand, you talk to your stockbroker, your financial advisor, they will take you through the process of coming to the market to raise money, giving you opportunity to have access to funds. And doing that, you will now expand your operations. Now, the public that they are offering these shares to becomes part owner of that your enterprise. And you can see that you'll be able to do more, employ more people, at the same time, encourages economic growth and development. So that is basically about stockbroking and the capital market. Like any other financial market, it has to be regulated. So there are regulators, which is the Apex, the Federal Exchange Commission, to ensure that people play by the rules of the game, and also to ensure efficiency, transparency, and even liquidity in the market. It is not something for the airline. It is not something for the rich people. Everybody can become a shareholder with as little as 5,000 naira. You can buy a share of a company. But you need to do that through your stock broker, which is why education, enlightenment is key for every investor, every Nigerian, every African to understand that they can partake in this market that looks as if it is very, very esoteric. It is not esoteric. It's as simple as going to the market to buy any other commodity. But in this market, the commodity we buy are financial assets.
Thank you so much. Now, Mr. Charles, please let us into the Nigerian stock market in the sense of the prospects of the Nigerian financial market, the stock market, and how things are run there. Because some of the information I have about the Nigerian stock market, the market capitalization is about 56 trillion naira, which is an equivalent of $40 billion. We have just 160 companies that are quoted in the market. And so it calls for concern, because we had a conversation before now, and that the financial analyst told us that Nigerian capital market is not really doing well in comparison to other capital markets. And we have seen what the South Africa, Johannesburg capital market is doing. Just taking a look at some of their details, they have about 1.3 trillion naira capitalization, market capitalization. Nigeria is just about $40 billion market capitalization. And in South Africa, they have over 300 companies that are quoted in the capital market. Why is that? Where do you think we are getting it wrong?
Yeah, thank you very much. I share your things. Yes, all stockbrokers, we share that faith that the Nigerian market can do better than what we have today. Today, we are talking about over 68 trillion naira. Let me use naira now. 68 trillion as market capitalization. Then, of course, the all share index, what we call the all share index, we used to measure the performance of the market, is being over 108,000 basis points. Yes, there has been some remarkable improvement, but we still believe that the market still has potential. It can still do better than what we have today. But I'm talking about the number of companies that are listed in the market. Yes, less than 200 companies. Agree. But you can see that it's a free market, free entry and free exit. When the market started by the Stock Exchange Act of 1960, or started operating in 1961, we saw a tremendous increase, not only in listed companies, but also listed securities, bonds, and all that. And the market grew. However, compared to our neighbors, like you have mentioned, South Africa, Nairobi, Egypt Stock Exchange, yes, we could do better looking at our population, over 200 million people. Yes, the problem we're having, a lot of education needs to continue. Yes, if you watch this year, I think in the last, we have seen some companies come to list in the market. So it's an ongoing process. And the regulators are doing everything to encourage companies to come and list the market, especially the Nigerian exchange, which we now call the NGX Limited, used to be Nigerian Stock Exchange. You will see that they have created various platforms, different boards, the premium board, the main board, the growth board, technology board. All this is in a bid to encourage SMEs to come, so that there are categories. If you cannot meet up the premium board because of the conditions, you can't meet up, fine. There is a main board. There is even a growth board. There is even a technology board. So they are trying to cater for all categories of entrepreneurs. But you must also realize that our attitude to doing business, we are so pivoted in one-man show. Okay? But we are also happy that those one-man show, we have seen the likes of Aliko Dangote, we have seen the likes of Tony Elbenu. These were one-man businesses before. But today, they already have their companies listed in the market. So a lot of enlightenment has to continue. And at the same time, for the operators, we need to also continue to become more innovative, more strategic, to begin to encourage not just only the middle class people, but also the generation, so I think they call them Gen Z, so that we can meet them where we can find them. And that is why the NGX has come out with a lot of innovation in terms of technology, mobile app, NGX Invest. All these are innovations to ensure that we attract more and more people. I must even shock you. Today, if you look at our record, we are over 200 million Nigerians. But the active investors were less than 6 million. Okay, recorded as of December 2024. So I agree with you. A lot of work still needs to be done. However, the operators still need to continue. It's a very tedious work, like I'll explain to you. Right now, as I'm finishing your meeting, I am going to somewhere to talk, that is the soldier barrack, to talk about investment. Because like you have said, people felt, oh, investing in the market is those with suits and this kind of red are putting on. No, you can even see that as soon as I'm through your program, I am going to trade from my bedroom because we want to leverage on technology to encourage a lot of investors, not just only in Nigeria, also in Africa. And there are also programs to link all the exchanges in Africa to see that I can be in Nigeria here and through a broker in South Africa, I can buy shares in Africa. I can buy shares in Ghana. So a lot of work is going on, but we need to begin to tell the average Nigerian the importance of the stock market. And of course, for those ones who have their company,
All right, Mr. Charles Fakrogha, thank you very much. The last word you mentioned, the importance of stock market. So, to the best of your knowledge, can you tell us what role the stock exchange play in economic development across all continents?
yes, the role that the stock exchanges play very enormous. One, they encourage mobilization of capital from deficit units to, that is from the surplus unit to the deficit unit that can be used for productive process. As a trader in the market, I tell my would-be stockbroker that your main job is to encourage SMEs, small companies, to come and lead so that they will have that capacity to increase their production. And when they're able to do that, they will employ more people, thereby reducing unemployment in the country. But at the same time, it has to do with financial assets. So there must be regulation. And that is why some people are even saying, oh, the market is being overregulated. No, we need to protect investors. So one of the cardinal points of the exchanges or the stock exchange is not just only to create that platform where people can come and raise money at the same time, buy and sell securities, but investors has to be protected, which is key, investors protection. At the same time, you need to make the market to be efficient and transparent. So there are guidelines. And what we have come to realize, some of these investors or entrepreneurs, when they want to come to the market, they begin to complain of those guidelines. But those guidelines, at the end of the day, is to ensure transparent investors protection and efficiency of the market. So stock exchanges is a barometer in measuring what happens in the economy. Like our all share index, if the index is doing well, it's going up, which tells you that the economy is also improving. However, there are some aspects of the economy that are not listed in the market, so the market will not be able to track those sectors. I'm talking about the shipping industry, the creative industry. But there are plans on the way to encourage those sectors of the economy to come and list in the market so that the market will be a balanced barometer of the economy.
All right, thank you very much. Last question in less than a minute before we go. We have some challenges talking about the capital market and stock exchange. One of which currency risk, political instability. How do you think Nigeria can navigate through some of these challenges?
Yes, that's a big problem. Liquidity is also there, currency issue, political, because the political economy affects what happens in the financial market. And that is why governments all over the world are taking their capital market, their stock exchanges, they are partnering with them to ensure that their policies are in line in trying to improve the economy. I must tell you that the Nigerian capital market is in line with with President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu in terms of attaining the, we can only achieve this with the collaboration of the government of the state. And the government has to be deliberate in its support for the Nigerian capital market. We need to create a enabling business environment because we want to attract foreign investors to come to our market. We need to ensure that our policies are friendly, economic policies are friendly. We give some incentives because if we don't do that, then that will be a problem. But in terms of integrating African stock exchanges, a lot of work is going on there. We have a project which is called the African Stock Exchanges Linkage Program to ensure that even in terms of currency, you can see that it's even easy for me to trade with somebody in US or China than for me to trade with somebody in Nairobi or South Africa. So there is a problem already in Africa as a whole. And that is why the African Development Bank, in collaboration with the what I call the African Securities Exchanges, they are collaborating to ensure that the exchanges in Africa are integrated, because that is key to ensure that we have regional integration, first of all, with Africa, so that it's easy to trade, buy stock in Nigeria, in South Africa, in Nairobi, in Egypt, so that the continent will improve in terms of our economic development. So the issue of currency, yes, African Development Bank is working on that to see that all those technology involved in terms of currency conversion and all that, they are taken into consideration when me using Naira here, I want to buy a share for my client in South Africa, conversion to Rand, and all that process will be seamless. So by the time it's not going to happen overnight, it has to take some time, but I assure you the project is ongoing, and in no distant future, we are going to see a complete regional integration of African stock exchanges, thereby demystifying what stock exchanges actually do.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Charles Fakrogha, stockbroker, who joins us this morning on Just Africa. We're going to break shortly, and the conversation is not over yet. When we return, Just Africa continues with another stockbroker who will be having same conversation from a different perspective. Do stay with us. Welcome back. Many thanks for joining us on Just Africa this morning. We are not done having conversation with Charles Fakrogha, who is a chartered stockbroker. Though we are expecting another stockbroker to join us, but Mr. Charles is not going anywhere yet. Welcome back to the program, Mr. Charles.
Thank you. I'm back.
Thank you. Many thanks for joining us. Now, let's take our conversation a little further. Whilst you were talking, you were making references to the intention, your intention, and the intention of the Securities and Exchange Commission and the regulators to expand and harmonize the stock markets in different African countries so they can be a common trading platform. And so in harmonizing this, we've been looking at it. Does the African Continental Free Trade Area that remove tariff barriers, non-tariff barriers, does it present a platform for us to do this? And do you think African countries concerned are really showing the resilience to using that instrument of African Continental Free Trade Area as an instrument or a platform of convergence to expand the stock market?
Yes, that is even the essence of that African Continental Free Trade agreement. And of course, the African Development Bank is spearheading at the forefront of everything. We must give kudos to the outgoing president, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina. He has spearheaded that integration of African trades, integration of African stock exchanges. But for now, basically, that instrument is going to facilitate and assist trading. Because what is actually stock exchange is buying and selling. So when we have that kind of instrument, it is going to assist each of these stock exchanges. Now let's start from West Africa. We have what they call the WACP, trying to integrate all the stock exchanges in West Africa. But there is a language issue. So today we have an exchange that takes care of all the francophone speaking countries. They call it the BRBN, headquarters in Cote d'Ivoire, taking care of Mali, Senegal, Guinea, Togo, Benin. So you can see that is already an integration. Then you have the Ghana Stock Exchange, you have the NGX in Nigeria. Now, once that is done, trade becomes easy in our sub-region. Because I keep saying it, we can't trade freely among ourselves, but we can trade with China, we can trade with the US, we can trade with other global countries. What about in our own continent? And so that is why the African Exchanges Link project is all being supported by African Development Bank, and at the same time, the instrument that you have just mentioned. But I also need to mention that there are challenges. The challenges are enormous. But the African countries themselves need to be intentional. They need to understand the benefits this is going to give to the continent. Africa as a continent, we can survive on our own. We have all the human and natural resources that we need to make the continent a great continent.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fakrogha. So I'd like you to take us through what is insider trading, I beg your pardon, and how does it affect the capital market? And is there anything like legal and illegal insider trading?
Yes, he just got that from my mouth. Yes, thank you very much. When you say insider trading, it does not mean that it's illegal. Now, insider trading is just simply an insider in the company, either the managing director, senior staff, directors, or other top management staff, even consultants of the companies, having access to price sensitive information, and they use it to benefit themselves. Those information have not been made known to the public. That is why it is called insider trading. However, there is a legal insider trading, and there is a rule today on the Nigerian exchange, that is the NGX. As an insider, maybe a chairman of a company, a consultant to a company, you want to buy or sell that company share, you must disclose it. You must disclose. So if a person like Dangote or Olumide or Tedola is buying shares of companies which they are chairmen or directors, they will disclose as to what they are buying, what they are selling, at what price. The whole market will be aware. And the exchange will approve it. Regulators will approve it. That is what we say is a legal insider trading. The other one that most of us know before, which is the illegal one, is the one that is not been approved, and those insiders take advantage of that information to profit themselves, their cronies, and at the same time also reduce their losses. Of course, it's a financial crime, and if there is any case of an illegal insider trading that is discovered, then the people involved will be prosecuted. Thank God, the NGS has a unit called surveillance and investigation. So they look at the market, they monitor the market, and if they see unusual movement, of course, they will call it up as red flag and begin to investigate. And if there are cases to show, yes, of course, those people involved will be prosecuted.
Thank you so much, Mr. Fakrogha. Now, I am more interested in facilitating trade among African countries, and you have done well by referencing that. And let me bring to your mind the conversation that the chairman or the president of African Development Bank that you mentioned, Akinwumi Adesina, who, whilst in Dubai, was talking about the immense potential possibilities available to African countries if 1.4 billion people trade amongst themselves. But globally, the African stock market has not been valued. Do you think they are being undervalued? Or is it because Nigeria or other African countries have not really taken advantage of some of the rare, raw, solid materials that are available on their soil? The Kenyan stock market is just about $10 billion worth. Nigeria is about $40 billion. And Tunisia or Morocco is about $70 billion. And this, the variance, the differences are so stark different. South Africa, Nigerian stock market is almost, South African stock market is like 3 times bigger than Nigerian stock market. And their potential is from banking, real estate, insurance. And we see Nigerian banks declare profit most of the time. Why do you think we are not there yet?
Yes, it's not that we're not there yet. You see, there are things that contribute to the market capitalization you are talking about. It's a function of the number of companies that are listed. When you say market cap, market capitalization, it's just the total number of companies.
Um, so sorry, Mr. Fakrogha. We are having some challenge with network glitch here. It's been, we've been experiencing new rains recently, and the communication lines seem to be. Mr. Charles is going to join us again as we continue. So I wanted to actually know that, because if you look at some of the exports or some of the things that promotes the Kenyan stock market, you'll be surprised. We talked about it yesterday, and the fact that it actually has a bearing on the stock market in Kenya. Okay, so Mr. Charles is back. Many thanks for joining us once again. Now, with your line of thought.
Yes. So what we need to do is to ensure that there are proper regulation in place. But the most important thing there is to convince our entrepreneurs to have confidence in the African market so that they can be listed in our exchanges. When we have more companies listed on the exchanges, then our market cap obviously is going to improve. But the most important thing, first of all, is to achieve that regional integration. Regional integration. And that can be done by all the countries involved in Africa to be committed to ensure that we want to trade with ourselves using our stock exchanges and, of course, other trade platforms.
I'll let you go. I want to quickly ask this question. What's the requirements, the conditions on ground for a company to be listed in stock exchange in Nigeria? Maybe we can use that to make some form of comparison with what obtains in other African countries.
Very good one. Yes, there are a lot of conditions, what we call listing requirements. First of all, the company must be a PLC. That's one. Then the company must have directors. Then the company must be operating, depending on the board you want to get listed, whether premium board, main board, growth board, or even the technology board. You must be operating maybe for at least, for growth board, maybe for 3 years, to have your records. For premium board, depending if you have been performing and they will see what you have been doing, then of course, the profit after tax you have been declaring for quite some time, must be encouraging. Then these are just some of the requirements that you need. At the same time, the board of directors will now apply and say, yes, we want to be listed on your exchange. So it's thereby the exchange will do a lot of due diligence to ensure that the companies that are coming to list meet what we call corporate governance requirements. Because when you come to the market, you are no longer a private company, and you'll be ready to disclose all your financials. Like we say in the stockbroking palace, you'll be ready to dance naked. That is full disclosure. So those are some of the requirements. Then when you are now listed, that are requirements what we call post-listing requirements. That is on a quarterly basis.
It's really quite challenging.
Challenging.
And this question about the requirement is very key, because
very, very key.
200 million people, 160 companies alone, only listed. And I remember the other time when we were discussing issues and putting the African continental free trade area as the centerpiece of our conversation, and using African Union to drive our conversation. Nigeria was mentioned as the leader in information technology. So my mind quickly just went up to NASDAQ 500 companies, which are the first 500 companies that have the capacity to trade.
Yes.
And all the requirements are there and they are listed. But you know what was leading the NASDAQ 500 is the IT firms, creativity, driving it, media organizations driving it. And I said to myself, with the myriad of media organizations we have in this company and with startups, I think they should be in there. Welcome back once again, Mr. Charles. Okay, so I was asking what we need to do to get there. Maybe the kind of orientation and the kind of awareness that the Nigerian Stock Exchange will need to do if they are not getting applications from organizations, expressing interest to be part of companies that are quoted in the exchange. And I think we should go to the people.
All right, welcome back, Mr. Fakrogha. Just one last question before you go in less than a minute. What is the future of the stock exchange in the digital age? And could we one day see a pan-African stock exchange? What would it take?
Yeah, the future of the African stock exchanges, particularly the Nigerian exchange, that's the NGX. I see an innovative stock exchange already started. I see a deepening of the Nigerian market. Just one day, yes, we're going to achieve a pan-African stock exchange because it's just a matter of commitment by the government, and of course, the operators are willing to run with it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Charles Fakrogha. Thank you so much for joining us this morning on Just Africa. We do apologize for the network glitch that has in one way hindered you from hindered us from having a smooth conversation. But we can make do because you've done quite well this morning. Let's just remember that cashcraft is part of our work this morning, and you don't want to miss that.
In the northern Sahel belt of Nigeria, where the earth is dry and the trees look like ancient sculptures, are quiet miracle lakes from back, not oil, not gas, but gum arabic, the golden sap of the acacia tree. To the untrained eye, it's just a sticky substance, but in the global market, it is a prized natural stabilizer found in everything from soft drinks to cosmetics, printing inks to pharmaceuticals. Nigeria is one of the world's top producers, yet many Nigerians don't know that this sticky substance is sticky with wealth. In a village near Gadam, Musa bends towards the thorny tree. With a small knife, he taps a scar into bark. Days later, golden tears form, drops of gum arabic, collected, sun-dried, and packed. They are ready for the world. Gum arabic is a natural gum harvested from 2 species of acacia tree. It's odorless, tasteless, and dissolves in water, making it perfect for global industries that demand natural ingredients. Soft drink companies use it, so do artists making watercolor paint. Even your chewing gum may contain this humble resin. It is exported in tons, fetching hundreds of millions of dollars annually on the global market. Sudan may be the world's leading exporter, but Nigeria ranks high too, especially in Borno, Yobe, Jigawa, Bauchi, and Katsina states. Yet, most of our gum is exported raw, unprocessed, meaning Nigeria earns cents, that's just a little, on the dollar compared to countries that refine it. The real money lies in value addition, refining, packaging, branding. But this requires training, machinery, and investment. If you are a youth looking to tap into agribusiness, Gum Arabic offers low barriers and long-term returns. Here is how you can plug in. Harvesting. Training and basic tools are enough to begin. 2. Aggregation. Buy in bulk from rural harvesters and resell to exporters. 3. Processing. With the right machinery, turn raw gum into powder or flakes. 4. Export. Partner with international buyers or cooperatives to reach global markets. 5. Byproducts. Gum is used in making glue, ink, cosmetic potential for SMEs in beauty or arts. Like every commodity, gum arabic has its turns. Climate change affects three youths, insecurity in the north discourages large-scale investment, and lack of awareness means local farmers often sell cheaply. But through cooperatives, training and access to microcredit, more Nigerians, especially youth, can revive this Asian trade. Remember, this is not a professional advice. It is an heads up, a clue into what could fetch you money, especially when people aren't looking towards that direction. Multiple research and professional consultation will go a long way. So the next time you sip a fizzy drink, apply makeup or paint on canvas, remember the dry acacia tree in Yobe, blending wealth into the hands of those who know its value. Cash is crafted not only in factories, but in forgotten farms and silent forests. In the gum of the desert lies the gold we've ignored too long. I am Grace Komalafe. See you again.
Thank you so much, Grace, for that and those valuable information about the gum arabic, and for the fact that it doesn't just only exist in the Sahel in Africa, it also exists in Nigeria, and that Nigeria is the third largest producer of this gum. It just calls to mind when our political leaders talk about, you know, diversification, the economic diversification away from oil and all of that, and how we are not considering this. Industrialization is still the key. Is still the key to making sure that in Nigeria, you know, is conveyed from being a third world countries, and not only Nigeria, including other African countries, are moved from the low income countries to the first world countries. The machinery and the industry for this is massive. If we have about 1.4 billion people in Africa and about 250 million or more in Nigeria alone, imagine if, because we heard how gum is a veritable source or raw material for the fabric and the textile industry. Imagine producing what we wear and, levying high tariffs on clothes coming from China, coming from the United States, coming from the West, coming from Europe, because we want to make sure that our local textile industry works, and including other African. Imagine what that can do for Nigeria.
It's amazing watching Catchcraft and finding out that gum can be used for so many things, the production of so many things: drinks, candy, toothpaste.
Yes.
Coated for tablets. It can be used as adhesives. So many things.
Most of these things you just mentioned.
Yes.
We import them into the country.
We import them. So it means that there's avenue for production, manufacturing companies to really thrive in Nigeria, because the raw materials is here. We're the third largest. So, we have it in abundance. So it gives room for wealth creation, job employment, so many things. It's just that, we really, I think it's more of educating ourselves, first of all, and I will always come back to this, the government making a level playing ground, creating a conducive environment for investors, manufacturers to thrive. Okay. Because if we really want to be doing Africa and Nigeria first, buy Nigeria first, it's achievable.
It's achievable, but...
we have everything. We have it.
Okay. So if 3 to 4 million people are already cultivating this material, but you know what? The downside is this. We are exporting them in a raw form, not in a processed form. We stand to lose and not to gain. But that being the case, I hope China, its foray into Africa, will not come in to Nigeria one day and start processing Gary for us, because I was told in the university that might happen, and my prayer is we will not get there where China will be producing Gary for us, because our local people need to do that. And same thing applies to other African countries. Now we're going to look at the uniqueness of Africa, and we're looking at the diaspora in this sense. But what country's diaspora are we looking at? I will leave that to you as you stay glued to our screen.
Two widely used and deeply troubling terms dominate discussions around Nigerian emigration: japa and brain drain. Japa, a word that has made its way into the Oxford English Dictionary, means to leave Nigeria for another country, often Europe or America, in pursuit of education, job opportunities, or better economic prospects. It also connotes to escape or to flee. The second term, brain drain, refers to the outflow of skilled professionals, doctors, engineers, academics, and more, leaving Nigeria to contribute their talents to other nations. As a patriot, one might argue that both terms evoke concern. Japa is symptomatic of systemic failures that drive citizens away from their homeland instead of encouraging them to stay and push for reform. As authors Darren Acemoglu and James Robinson emphasized in Why Nations Fail, governance thrives under civic pressure. If the youth and professionals flee, who remains to demand accountability and enforce positive change? Likewise, brain drain depletes the country's human capital. When Nigeria's best-trained professionals are developing other nations, the country is left with fewer hands to build its own future. However, this narrative is shifting. As Bayo Olaoye explores in this special report, there is a compelling case for viewing the Nigerian diaspora not as a loss, but as an economic powerhouse. From brain drain to brain gain. Recent figures from the Nigerian Medical and Dental Council show that only about 27,000 of Nigeria's 71,740 registered doctors currently practice in the country. Thousands of Nigerian doctors, nurses, and health professionals now work in the UK and the US, contributing significantly to those nations' healthcare systems. It's a trend seen across professions, from teachers to tech experts. Critics argue these individuals should be at home, contributing to Nigeria's development. Yet, the picture is not so black and white. According to World Bank economists Art Cray and David McKenzie, poverty can often be a function of where one lives. For many Nigerians, staying home may mean remaining trapped in poverty. In that context, emigration is a rational choice and often a necessary one. Furthermore, the idea of brain drain has evolved into brain circulation or brain gain. Many Nigerians abroad are returning with skills, capital, and experience to invest in the country. Even those who don't return still give back. As Dr. Segun Aganga noted in Reclaiming the Jewel of Africa, diaspora Nigerians do not have to physically return to make an impact. Diaspora remittances, a lifeline for millions. Diasporans are sustaining the Nigerian economy through billions in remittances. Between 2018 and 2020, Nigerians abroad sent home over $65 billion, accounting for 4% of Nigeria's GDP. These funds uplift millions of households, offering relief from poverty, hunger, and economic despair. Remittances also help stabilize the naira, acting as a buffer against foreign exchange volatility. Yet, Nigeria is missing an opportunity to fully harness this potential. The Central Bank of Nigeria has imposed capital flow restrictions, forcing remitted dollars to be exchanged only at the official rate and in naira. This approach discourages larger inflows and stifles the remittance ecosystem. Diaspora trade and investment, the next frontier. Beyond remittances lies a massive opportunity in export trade. A Commonwealth Secretariat report highlights how countries with large diasporas have a comparative advantage in export markets. With over 20 million Nigerians abroad, this is a goldmine waiting to be tapped. Nigerians abroad crave products from home, be it fashion, food, film, or fine art. But to meet this demand, Nigeria needs a deliberate strategy to engage the diaspora. This means more than just ceremonial congratulations. It demands structured collaboration, policy coordination, and economic diplomacy. NIDCOM and the policy disconnect. The Nigerian Diaspora Commission, NIDCOM, under the leadership of Abike Dabiri Erowa, has raised visibility on diaspora issues. However, its current focus remains largely reactive, centered around crises like human trafficking and consular support. For real impact, NIDCOM must collaborate with economic ministries, coordinate with trade and industry stakeholders, and act as a bridge between diaspora investors and local entrepreneurs. Beyond economics, political and institutional engagement. Nigeria must not reduce its diaspora to economic figures alone. They are citizens with a stake in the country's political future. That's why remote voting rights must be instituted, allowing diasporans to participate in national elections. Moreover, complaints about Nigerian embassies and high commissions, especially in the US and UK, must be addressed. Diasporans often face challenges with basic services like passport renewal, which leaves them feeling alienated and abandoned. This must change. The Nigerian diaspora is not a burden, it is a blessing. A sleeping economic giant that, if properly engaged, could help rewrite Nigeria's growth story. From remittances and trade to skills transfer and global influence, the diaspora is a strategic asset and not a national loss. What Nigeria needs is bold policy reform and a new mindset, one that sees migration not as failure, but as a force for economic revival. Japa may signal escape, but with the right vision, it can also spark renewal. I'm Moyosore Adebi for Soup News TV.
Thank you to Bayo Olaye and Moyosore. And that report that documentary is excellent. Nigerians in diaspora, it's not a burden, it's not a brain drain, it's a brain gain.
Yes,
because we must begin to stop to see them as a burden. Because when they come back to this country, they find a better way to run a business in the murky and disturbing of places, even if it's farming and in other places. And we think that what they are bringing back to the economy is much more than what they took out.
You rightly said it. I mean, brain drain. That's what we're having, our brain drain. It's not brain drain or
It's
whatever.
not brain drain,
because
drain.
if you look at the real estate sector, a lot of the Nigerians in diaspora, they want patronizing the real estate. Over there, they just want to have a secured property in Nigeria. They reach out to some of these real estate agents and, acquire lands, houses here and there, that even though they are locked up for years and, there's the problem of where to stay and all that. But they are actually, adding into the economy and everything. So let's see it as a brain gain, not brain drain. It's just that we are losing some of the brains, the creatives that we need to develop this country. They are going to another country to develop another country and sending cash back to us, which in turn, well, let me stop there.
For me, my case is just different. And trust me, my perspective, Nigerians, you own the world. Go out, just go. Nigeria will never lack other brains. People are coming up. You think you are the best brain and that losing you, Nigeria has lost everything. I tell you not. No, we have others. It's not a brain drain, it's a brain gain. Thank you once again, Bayo Olaye, for that. My name is Oyinpreye Krumale. It's Just Africa, and thanks to you for joining us this morning.
And I am Olumide Sokoya. Many thanks for joining us.